During the Battle of the Blackwater, there's a point where Sandor Clegane is still doing exactly what you would expect him to do. He's in the fighting, he's holding the line, he's where someone like him is supposed to be when the city's under attack, and then he isn't. There's no formal withdrawal, no order passed down, he doesn't reposition or fall back with a unit, he just stops. When Tyrion tries to send him back into the fighting, the response is immediate, not hesitation, not negotiation. He says he's not going back into the fire. And that's it. From the outside, especially in the middle of a battle like that, it looks like a collapse. A man refusing to do his duty when it matters most. But the text doesn't present it as something sudden or out of nowhere. By the time he says it, something has already been building. Hello everyone, and welcome to Storyteller's Codex. Here we delve deep into the rich lore of the Lord of the Rings, a song of ice and fire, and the vast worlds beyond. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Before Blackwater, Sandor's role in King's Landing is consistent. He's Joffrey's sworn shield, but in practice, that means something more specific. He's the one people rely on when things turn violent. You can see that clearly in Sansa's chapters. During the riot in A Clash of Kings, when the crowd turns on her, it's Sandor who gets to her first. Not with ceremony, not with reassurance, just direct action. He cuts through the crowd, takes control of the situation and gets her out. There's no hesitation there. And it's not just that moment. When Joffrey has Sansa beaten, Sandor is present. He doesn't stop it, but he also doesn't treat it as normal in the way others do. He speaks to her afterward, in a way that doesn't fit neatly with the role he's supposed to play. That pattern repeats. He carries out violence when required, but he also comments on it. He doesn't pretend it's something else. To the rest of the court, that doesn't really matter. What matters is that when something needs to be done, he does it. So by the time Blackwater happens, there's an expectation attached to him, that he will keep functioning, no matter the situation. And that's what makes the break during the battle stand out. Not just that he leaves, but he's one of the last people you would expect to do it. The fear of fire isn't something that appears at Blackwater. It's already there, and the books don't treat it as a rumour or exaggeration. When Sandor speaks to Sansa about it, he doesn't build it up. He doesn't soften it either. He tells her what Gregor did, holding his face in the brazier when they were children. Not long, not a drawn-out story. Just enough detail to make it clear that this wasn't an accident, and that no one stopped it. And the way he tells it matters. There's no attempt to make it sound meaningful, no lesson attached to it. It comes out flat, almost like something he's said before, or something he's gotten used to saying without expecting a response. After that, the reaction to fire in later scenes doesn't need to be explained. It's already connected to something specific. Not just pain, but something that happened in a situation where he had no control over it, and no protection from it. So when fire appears again, it isn't neutral. It's tied to that memory whether he wants it to be or not. At Blackwater, fire isn't part of the battlefield. It is the battlefield. The wildfire on the river changes everything. Tyrion describes it spreading across the water, turning ships into burning wreckage, trapping men where they can't escape. The colour matters, green, unnatural, not behaving like normal fire. It doesn't stay contained. It moves with the current, catches on wood, on sails, on anything that floats. Men jump into the river to escape it and burn anyway, and this isn't happening at a distance. It's close enough that the defenders on the walls can see it clearly, close enough that the heat and the light carry into the city itself. From Sansa's point of view, even inside the Red Keep, the battle becomes something defined by that fire. The sky glows, the air changes. So for someone like Sandor, this isn't a normal engagement with fire. It's not torches or scattered flames. It's something overwhelming, spreading, difficult to control and impossible to ignore. And once it reaches that scale, it stops being just another part of the fight. It becomes the thing everything else is happening around. At the beginning of the battle, Sandor is still functioning the way he always does. He's in position, he's fighting. There's nothing in the early stages that suggests he's about to leave. The shift doesn't happen all at once. Tyrion notices it first. There's a moment where Sandor is no longer fully engaged with what's happening around him. The fire draws his attention in a way the rest of the battle doesn't. It's not just awareness, it's fixation. He's still present, still armed, still capable, but something is off. Tyrion speaks to him directly, tries to push him back into action, and the response isn't what he expects. It's not defiance in the usual sense. It's not anger directed outward. It's refusal. And even then, it's not loud at first. That's what makes the moment stand out. This isn't a sudden outburst. It's something tightening, narrowing his focus away from the fight and onto something else entirely. By the time it becomes obvious, it's already moved past the point where it can be corrected. The moment itself is brief. Tyrion orders him back into the fighting. Sandor refuses, not with an argument, not with an excuse that tries to justify it in military terms. He says he's not going back into the fire. That's the line, and once it's said, everything else follows quickly. He turns away from the battle, leaves his post, leaves the role he's been filling up to that point. What matters here is that nothing replaces it. He doesn't reposition. He doesn't look for another way to contribute. He doesn't try to stay useful in a different part of the fight. He's done. From Tyrion's perspective, that's a collapse of discipline at the worst possible moment. From Sandor's perspective, it's the point where continuing stops being possible, and there's no attempt to bridge that gap between the two. The decision is made, and he acts on it immediately. After leaving the battle, Sandor doesn't disappear immediately. He goes back into the Red Keep, and specifically he goes to Sansa. The scene is quiet compared to everything happening outside, but it carries a different kind of tension. He's been drinking. That's clear from the way he speaks and moves, but it doesn't make him incoherent. If anything, it strips away the restraint he usually keeps in place. He tells her directly that the city is burning, not in a dramatic way, just stating it as fact. Then the conversation shifts. He talks about what's happening outside, about nights burning, about men screaming. The way he describes it isn't exaggerated. It's blunt, and it lines up with what we've already seen from Tyrion's perspective. And then he offers her a way out. He tells her he can take her away from King's Landing. Not as part of a larger plan, not tied to anyone else, just the two of them leaving. The way he frames it matters. It's not presented as rescue in the idealized sense. There's threat mixed into it, uncertainty about what he expects in return, and Sansa reads that clearly. But it's also the first time he's offering something that isn't tied to his role at court. He's no longer acting as Joffrey's man in that moment. He's acting on his own. And when she refuses, he doesn't force it. He leaves. It's easy to reduce what happens at Blackwater to a single cause. Fire appears, Sandor fears it, and he leaves. But when you look at everything around it, that explanation starts to feel incomplete. He's been around fire before. He lives in a world where violence is constant, where pain is expected, where fear doesn't usually stop him from doing what he's told. What's different at Blackwater is how everything comes together at once. The scale of the fire, the fact that it's everywhere, not contained, and the fact that he's being ordered to go back into it for someone he doesn't respect. That last part has been there for a while. He doesn't hide what he thinks of knights, of Joffrey, of the way things are done at court. He does the job, but he doesn't believe in it. So when the situation shifts from routine violence to something that directly connects to his past, there isn't much holding him in place anymore. The role he's been playing stops making sense to him in that moment, and once that happens, the decision to leave doesn't need much more justification than that. Once Sandor walks away from the Blackwater, he doesn't return to the fight. He doesn't report to anyone. He doesn't look for a different position in the city. He leaves King's Landing entirely. That part matters, because it shows this isn't a temporary break. If it were just about the battle, you would expect him to reappear afterward, once the fire is gone and the situation stabilizes, but he doesn't. Instead, he moves out of the system he's been part of up to that point. Joffrey loses his sworn shield. The court loses someone they relied on to carry out violence without hesitation, and Sandor doesn't replace that role with anything similar. When we see him again, later, he's no longer tied to the Lannisters or to the court at all. He's operating on his own, without the structure that used to define him. So leaving the battlefield isn't just about refusing an order. It's the point where he stops being the Hound in the way King's Landing understood him. If you look back at everything leading up to Blackwater, the break doesn't come out of nowhere. The fear of fire is already there. The distance between him and the people he serves is already there. The way he speaks about knights, about honour, about the system he's part of. None of that lines up with someone who believes in what he's doing. Blackwater is where those things meet. The fire becomes unavoidable. The role he's been playing no longer holds together under that pressure. And once it breaks, it doesn't come back. What follows, leaving the city, moving through the Riverlands, the shift in how he acts later, all of it traces back to this point. So the question isn't just why he left in that moment, it's why that moment removed the last reason he had to stay. If you're interested in The Lord of the Rings or A Song of Ice and Fire, click one of the links on the screen to dive deeper into the lore. Thanks for watching, and we hope to see you next time.